Famous author Mark Twain is known, at least in part, for his work, Life on the Mississippi. The book is filled with Twain's many fond memories of his days as a steamboat pilot before the Civil War. But it was a death on the Mississippi, one he describes in detail in this memoir, that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Twain grew up on the banks of the Mississippi River in Hannibal, Missouri, the tiny riverport town his beloved novels, Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, would make famous. Groups of young Hannibal boys, including Sam Clemens, Mark Twain's real name, would often sit on the bank of the river and observe steamboats passing in the distance. The boys would fantasize about the romantic and fascinating lives the pilots of those steamboats must live. Clemens himself often entertained the notion of escaping his small town one day and pursuing the life of a daring and dashing Mississippi riverboat pilot. When Sam's father died at a relatively young age and in financial straits, the three Clemens boys, Orion the oldest, Sam in the middle, and Henry the youngest, were left to make their way in the world the best they could. Following Orion's lead, they all three ended up dabbling in the printing profession, at least for a time. But after eventually migrating downriver to St. Louis, Sam ultimately pursued his boyhood dream. He secured a 2-year apprenticeship on a steamboat, training that would lead to the vaunted position of riverboat pilot. Youngest brother Henry wound up following Sam down to St. Louis. They also had a sister and brother-in-law in the city. 19-year-old Henry found temporary work with a printer and performed other odd jobs to get along. But big brother Sam wanted better for Henry. He cared deeply for his little brother, describing him as gentle, innocent, and kind. Later, as writer Mark Twain, he would say that Henry was never known to say or do an ungentlemanly thing to anybody, old or young, rich or poor, white or black. Sam eventually coaxed Henry into joining the crew of the steamboat on which Sam was apprenticing, the Pennsylvania. Henry signed on as a mud clerk, the most junior position on the boat. During loading and unloading, he stood on the shore, often in mud, hence the name, recording the numbers of bales, barrels, and other items entering or exiting the vessel. He also completed waybills, stood watch, helped passengers, and performed many other tasks while the Pennsylvania was underway. The position did not pay a salary, but it was in line for promotion. When Henry reached a more advanced level spot within the boat's crew, he would make a fine living and enjoy a more exciting lifestyle. The Pennsylvania plied the lower Mississippi between St. Louis and New Orleans. One night, a few weeks after Henry joined the boat's crew, older brother Sam had a vivid dream. A dream in which he saw a deceased Henry lying in a metal coffin with an arrangement of white roses on his chest. A single red rose highlighted the center of the grouping. The nightmare shook Sam, and he mentioned it to family members in St. Louis who dismissed it as the silly stuff of dreamland. In June of 1858, the Clemens brothers departed St. Louis aboard the Pennsylvania for the trip downriver to New Orleans. Sam Clemens had not yet earned full status as a pilot and served as second in line to an irascible middle-aged navigator named William Brown. Sam had had his difficulties with Brown, and on this trip, those difficulties came to a head. Brown lost his temper at Henry, unjustly, prompting older brother Sam to rise in Henry's defense. Sam and Brown came to blows. When the dust settled, Sam agreed to leave the boat in New Orleans and return to St. Louis on another vessel. He encouraged little brother Henry to remain aboard. Sam believed that pilot Brown would be fired in St. Louis, allowing Sam to rejoin the Pennsylvania's crew. The night before the Pennsylvania headed north again, Sam and Henry sat up late chatting on a freight pile near the levee. It would be their last happy moment together. The Pennsylvania, with Henry aboard, left the next morning. Sam would follow 2 days later on the A.T. Lacey. When Sam's boat stopped briefly at Greenville, Mississippi, word came that the Pennsylvania had blown up. 150 lives lost. Far upriver, some 60 miles below Memphis, Tennessee, on Monday the 13th of June, 4 of the 8 boilers on the Pennsylvania exploded. The eruption occurred around 6 a.m., and Henry and others were asleep in cabins above the boilers. Along with many others, Henry was lofted into the air and landed in the river. He had sustained scalding wounds over much of his body and may have inhaled superheated steam, which critically damages lungs. Pilot William Brown had been blasted into the water by a burst of steam and died in a rescuer's arms. The Pennsylvania had been towing a firewood barge as it traveled upriver. The barge was now nearly empty, and dozens of wounded, including Henry, were pulled aboard it near shore. The injured would languish untreated in the punishing heat of the summer sun until taken aboard another passing steamboat. Back downriver, as the A.T. Lacey with Sam Clemens aboard made its way north toward the disaster, Sam heard at first that his brother was unhurt. Then the correct word came that Henry was gravely wounded. Sam was, no doubt, incapacitated by worry. When he finally reached Memphis and entered the large public hall in which the wounded from the disaster had been placed, his worst fears were realized. As an observer described it later, on approaching the bedside of the wounded man, his feelings so much overcame him at the scalded and emaciated form before him that he sank to the floor, overpowered. Sam, later writing as Mark Twain stated, 2 long rows of prostrate forms, every face and head a shapeless wad of loose raw cotton. It was a gruesome spectacle. He would remain at the bedside until Henry finally succumbed to his wounds and possibly a misadministered dose of morphine 6 days later. He sank into a gentle sleep and never woke again, Mark Twain later wrote. My youth died with him. I have never cared for life since. As the other disaster victims died one by one, they were carried to a death room and placed in simple wooden boxes. But Henry had been a favorite among the attending nurses, and for him, they chose to take up a collection to purchase a metal casket. Before placing him in it, they dressed him in a suit of clothing borrowed from Brother Sam. The women then placed a bouquet of white roses on Henry's chest. When Sam laid eyes on the funerary scene the ladies had created, he was dumbstruck. It precisely matched the vivid premonition, the one of Henry in a metal casket he had dreamt of months earlier. The lone missing detail was the red rose highlighting the center of the white floral bouquet. But just as Sam noticed this, an elderly lady entered the room and placed a single red rose in the center of the white flowers. The grieving older brother would escort Henry's body back home to Hannibal, Missouri, aboard a steamboat named, quite aptly, the Hannibal City. The Clemens family would gather to inter Henry next to his father in Baptist Cemetery. 18 years later, the bodies would be moved across town to Mount Olivet Cemetery to rest in a common plot with other Clemens family members. For the remainder of his life, Sam Clemens was haunted by the belief that had he not persuaded Henry to remain aboard the Pennsylvania, his loyal and kind-hearted little brother would have been spared. Sam would, of course, in years following, become a world-famous author and humorist under the pen name Mark Twain. He would captivate and entertain millions with vivid tales of life on and along the banks of the Mississippi. But one tragic tale of death on the Mississippi River, one that replayed over and over in his mind throughout his life, would temper the joys of his future fame and wealth. Late in his life, Twain would ruefully lament in regard to Henry's death. The wound which that catastrophe made in me has not healed yet. It is the greatest pain I have ever known, for I was the cause of it all. Never a day passes that I do not feel its keen shot. A shot that struck me and not him, like a bullet in the brain.